Hello everyone, welcome back to today's build. I'll be your guide to this wonderful game we all love. Let's get started. Today's deck is an audience recommendation and is definitely slept on, both in brewing and on the battlefield, and has profound potential, especially on its budget. Today, we'll look at Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy, with the background Scion of Halaster, and talk about threat assessment. Threat assessment is difficult in Commander, as new players quickly learn with proverbs like, your life total is not a good measurement of who's winning, winning at 1 life counts the same as winning at 200, and the only life point that matters is the last. Knowing who's winning is more complicated than life totals. Many may end up thinking that someone's in first, and then the player they think is in second sneaks up behind them and steals the lead to cross the finish. I think that a lot of the times that happens, the player in second might have actually been winning all along. Board states are definitely a better indicator than life totals, but they can be misleading and hard to read. Tokens are often marked with dice, which can make them feel less threatening than they are, and seeing them represented by whole cards might have been a more visual cue as to the danger. To find people at the command zone, the person who wins is often the person who spent the most mana so far, which is harder to track and isn't always true, as the player who spent the first few turns ramping often is and should be punished through combat. Still, other resources hide in plain sight, and Gale is one of them. In my experience, one of the most overlooked zones is in the graveyard, as people often only look through your yard when thinking about stealing something from it or exiling it. But spells can lurk outside enemy hands with effects like Adventure, Flashback, Aftermath, Unearth, Rebound, and more. Gale stores up what is effectively a second hand in this zone, and his board state will almost always appear modest. It's easy to see their danger when their hands look like this, but the threat may pass undetected if their hand looks like this. If more people checked graveyards outside of when they're preparing to steal cards from them, this probably wouldn't be an issue, but in this deck, our opponent's preoccupations work to our advantage. This time around, due to our game plan, our ramp package is actually pretty small. We're looking at Baral, Chief of Compliance, Nightscape Familiar, Stormscape Familiar, and several other cost reducers, alongside Curious Homunculus, Deranged Assistant, and Milliken to add mana and fill our graveyard. But chances are we're not actually playing any of these until turn 4, so it's okay to not have any of them in your opening hand. Most of what we mill turns into cards that we can play. With our graveyard acting like a second hand, cards like Thought Scour can be even better than Ancestral Recall. And it's here that we find a home for cards like Vohar, Vidalian Desecrator, Academy Wall, and Windrider Wizard. On the spells end, we're running Ideas Unbound, Notion Rain, and Ransack the Lab to fill our hand and graveyard, as well as Discerning Taste, See the Truth, and Funeral Rites. These kinds of effects can be tacked onto our instance to drown our opponents in card advantage in ways that more than make up for our lack of real ramp. The deck is fragile but highly reactive. Our primary play pattern will be playing a land, passing, and using instants on our opponent's turn to play sorceries, so those instants will protect our commander and stop opponents from hitting our graveyards, while our sorceries will remove their creatures, while we dig for more cards and wait. We're running Bone Shards, Shieldwood's Edict, and Heartwood's Act to hit enemy creatures, as well as Winds of Rebuke, Void Snare, and Extract the Truth to hit enemy permanents, while Duress, Vicious Rumors, and Pilfer disrupt our opponent's hands. We're also running Frantic Search, Snap, Unwind, Rewind, and Energy Tap to keep our mana topped off so we can continue to pop off. Our game plan is simple. On turn 1, we play a land and try to follow it up with some early hand disruption, so that's something you'll want in your opening hand. With any luck, we take away their ramp pieces and slow them down, because on turn 2, we're probably only playing Scion of Halaster. Our turn 3 will almost always be Gale, so turn 4 is where our game really starts. If you had some ramp, you might deploy it, but if you don't, then our deck is just ready to go. With the deck online, we'll use our library of loot effects to pour spells into our graveyard and keep our hand well stocked. Our interaction needs to prioritize fighting against graveyard hate and protecting Gale, while also digging through the deck for token makers like Occult Epiphany, Army of the Damned, Waste Management, Rise from the Tides, and Stolen by the Fae, so that we can tee up our endgame, Candlekeep Inspiration, which will make our tokens into huge beaters, which will smash in for all the damage. If we were to spend a little more on the deck, you could build towards a Thassa's Oracle for Demonic Consultation win, but that's not us today. On the way to a Candlekeep win, we'll generate some incidental tokens with cards like Hunt for Specimens, Haunting Imitation, Flip the Switch, Tolerant Sky Summoner, and Murmuring Mystic. With Dimir Aqueduct, Sunken Hollow, and 35 basic lands in addition to our commander, that's 90 cards in all. As always, the best way to build on a budget is to use what you already have, so feel free to fill out the remaining slots with whatever you need to make the deck your own. As it stands, this deck has so much potential, but excluding the Thoracle line definitely holds us back in terms of power. Right now, I'd rate this as a high 6, but it's going to have games where we win out of nowhere. Despite that, we're also nowhere close to optimized. It feels incredible piloting this deck.
If you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching!